Euromaxx highlights. In today's show, Feast for the Eyes. German photographer Frauke Koops puts food in the spotlight. Perfecting imperfection. Dutch designer Hella Jongerius and her unique creations. Beethoven Backwards. Italian pianist Maurizio Mastrini performs classical music in reverse. Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Karen Helmstedt.
Hello there, and a warm welcome to our Highlights edition. And we're starting off by raising our glasses to a major event on the wine calendar, because this past week saw the third Thursday of November, which always means the Beaujolais Nouveau has arrived. As soon as the clocks chime midnight, barkeepers around the world can begin serving the first wine of the year. And according to reports, this time it even has notes of raspberry and strawberry. Well, many critics do wrinkle their noses at a wine they consider too young and too simple to be taken seriously, but the intense marketing of the launch does always ensure that it has quite a following. Well, its arrival is traditionally celebrated and properly in Beaujolais. That's in the heart of the Beaujolais region in central France. So we went to see how this year's vintage is going down.
It's that time of year again. On the dot of midnight, it's time to toast the arrival of the new Beaujolais Nouveau.
The Beaujolais is very good.
Tens of thousands of wine lovers travel specially to Beaujolais, the historic capital of Beaujolais, for this event.
Really great, it's really fruity and really soft, and it slides right down.
Pascal Dufrestre is a winemaker who knows his Beaujolais.
Very good foot of strawberry, very Beaujolais prima.
Dufrestre has been a vintner for 28 years and runs the renowned winery Château de Pizé. Here he produces 600,000 bottles of wine a year, of which 120,000 are Beaujolais Nouveau. He reveals the secret to a good Beaujolais.
We produce very fruity wine on sandy soil, on granitic soil with gamay. We have very good expression of fruit, of grapes and of strawberry, of red fruit. We have to keep the fruit in the grapes and to give the fruit in the glass. So we have to conserve with low temperature, not to let the fruit escape.
Maybe this is why Dufrestre is known as the magician of the gamay grape. He knows better than almost anyone how to produce a bold and multifaceted Beaujolais. Dufrestre draws on generations of winemaking history dating back to his great-great-grandfather. The winemaking region of Beaujolais lies just north of Lyon. Some 20,000 hectares here are dedicated to growing grapes. Beaujolais Nouveau can already be sold 4 weeks after the harvest. A law to this effect was passed in 1951 to boost sales of the wine. Georges Duboeuf came up with the idea. Thanks to him, Beaujolais Nouveau is now known around the globe. He promoted the product in Europe and overseas. Today, Beaujolais Nouveau is sold in over 150 countries.
Yes, it is very important for us because it's a big part of our production, yes, but it's only a quarter of our production. It's important because we sell it in 3-4 weeks.
Beaujolais Nouveau is a guaranteed moneymaker for the region's vintners. That's because only wine from the area around Beaujolais can call itself Beaujolais. The competition has to find another name, like Novello, a wine from northern Italy.
I drank Novello 3 or 4 years ago. It was like Beaujolais Nouveau, but without gamay. I think Italian winemakers try to make Beaujolais Nouveau, but they have no gamay, no soil. It seems like Beaujolais Nouveau, but the end of the taste is more strong, more hard, not so sweet and not so easy to drink, I think.
It's clear the French love their Beaujolais Nouveau.
We have a special word in French. We say il est goulayant. When you drink a glass, you need another glass.
No wonder Beaujolais Nouveau is the perfect wine for almost any occasion.
And no shortage of it for the moment. Well, from wine to food, it's time to meet an unusual cook for whom the look of a dish is the absolute top priority. Frauke Koops is a professional food stylist who makes pictures of food, like the ones we see in cookbooks or food magazines, look good enough to eat. Now, they are, in fact, edible, as Koops stares clear of all the nasty styling tricks involving inedible things like antifreeze or even hairspray. We met up with her in the kitchen in Hamburg and got some insight into the art of fixing food for the eye.
Rehearsals for a glossy promotional photo, and what a recipe should end up looking like is the priority here. A food magazine wants pictures of fillets of fish on a bed of cabbage leaves. Food stylist Frauke Koops brings the recipe to life. So, is this actually art rather than cooking?
I'd say both. It has a lot to do with cooking, but for me it's like working with wood, stone or any other material.
Frauke uses a wide selection of tools as well as the skills she's honed over the last 50 years. The coffee, made of cold sugar syrup, looks steaming hot only because of a hidden boiled potato. A pinch of salt in the sparkling wine makes it especially bubbly. And a layer of semolina in the bowl of soup stops the vegetables from sinking out of sight. Some food stylists have distinctly unappetizing solutions. They might use shaving foam for whipped cream or engine oil instead of chocolate, but not Frauke.
I want it to look natural, and that takes more time. I've often been asked to do advertising jobs where hair dye is used, but I think that's a thing of the past.
Frauke Koops has experienced many different trends in food styling. Back in the 1960s, today's neat fish dish would have been drowned in sauce.
The first photograph I was required to redo was a bowl of red cabbage, which didn't tower over the bowl. It was filled quite normally, but then I had to redo it. They wanted to have a big pile, because that's what the dishes looked like.
In the 1960s, food design involved tremendous amounts of material. The plates had to show off what you had. They were overfull, almost baroque. The post-war generation was hungry and eager to enjoy the fruits of the recovery.
I think it was important to be full, and that's how food was served. Today it's different, with more focus on presentation.
The artistic presentation of food emerged in the late 1970s. The trend at that time was more plate than food. Food styling was influenced by the trend toward nouvelle cuisine. That meant less quantity but more quality and more expense. Star chefs catering to a select clientele. Then the phenomenon of fast food chains took off. The burger was one of the biggest challenges for Frauke Koops. The perfect crescent-shaped bun is supposed to have about 10 sesame seeds per square centimeter. If need be, they were stuck on individually. The ingredients were set on tiny plastic sheets to keep them looking fresh. Sometimes whole crates of rolls were thrown away before a photo was taken.
Sometimes the huge amounts the agencies expected us to use were really overwhelming. I tried to understand it. I don't think these people really knew how much work is needed to get a product like that onto the table.
Frauke Koops doesn't work on fast food campaigns anymore. She prefers to craft her pictures individually, paying attention to the most minute details. The fig is turned into the light. The salad leaf shifted slightly to the left. The composition alone can take 2 hours. And she uses only natural ingredients.
Perfection is when you pull an onion out of the earth and some of it's missing, or it's been nibbled at by a snail. That's what I need, honesty in life. I can't say whether I'm always true to that, but I try to be that way in my work.
Frauke Koops' food styling is staged, but honest. A cabbage leaf becomes a work of art, and a series of photographs an idealized portrayal of culinary delights.
And now to another woman whose work is always impressive, often seemingly simple, and with a tiny detail that sets it apart from the rest. Dutch product designer Hella Jongerius is one of few women at the very top of her profession, and she was the first woman to be awarded the German Design Prize back in 2006. Well, renowned for the way that she fuses industry and craft, the media-shy Jongerius is now being honored with a solo exhibition in Rotterdam.
Various contributions to the repertoire of Spanish shoemaker Camper. The Munich porcelain company Nymphenburg is another one of her clients. Also the Swiss furniture maker Vitra. And she designed a €50,000 desk for the Paris gallery Creo. Over 100 of her creations are currently on display at the Boijmans van Beuningen Museum in Rotterdam. One day before the opening, the Dutch designer had some finishing touches of her own to add. She's a rule breaker who prefers to give her products character than to just make them slick.
The basic theme in my work is to make individual pieces industrially made. So made in series, but that you still see the hand of the maker.
Hella Jongerius designed these rubber vases when she finished studying in 1993. She attracted attention from museums all over the world. This chair and lamp are currently on display at the New York Museum of Modern Art. In 2004, she designed these water bottles, and for IKEA, she made these vases. In China, she instructed workers to make dents in them with their fingers to make them look handcrafted. Other designers have long been copying her work, but she doesn't mind.
If you are an innovator, you're often too far ahead, and so the copies makes that the big markets change, and so I think it's very good that there are copies because then the world change, and that's my intention.
The designer moved from Rotterdam to Berlin 2 years ago, where she has a studio in the city's Prenzlauer Berg district. Her assistant was the only one of her 10-person team to come with her. The place is filled with her own creations because, unlike other designers, she likes to surround herself with her work.
I can ask, yes, it's at fine, I didn't see.
Because she only makes things she likes herself, some of her ceramic and porcelain pieces have found their way into her kitchen. These partially glazed plates are an example. Her shelves also play host to the so-called V-set, which was considered a design innovation 13 years ago.
The molds are perfectly done, but the plates are put in the kiln on a too high temperature, so that it means that each plate comes out a little wobbly, not really in shape, and that makes sure each plate is unique, although it is industrially made. And that's, I think, the difference of plates that are industrially done and all look the same.
Her latest project involves the development of color. Industrially manufactured colors are not enough for her, so she's come up with 17 shades of black, which change according to the time of day. Color plays a big role in Hella Jongerius' work. For her so-called polder sofa, made for the Swiss company Vitra, she combined 6 different shades of a color and quickly had a bestseller on her hands. The exhibition at Rotterdam's Boijmans Museum runs until February and is like a farewell to the city for the designer. But her fans and design critics are already waiting for her next creations.
True, everybody's asking, why don't you start making a car? That's the car is the is the top of industrial design. Eh? Well, if the time is right, then maybe, you never know.
But that might take a while, because Hella Jongerius is now planning to start working with plastics.
Well, now we move on to music, and if we were to proceed like the Italian pianist Maurizio Mastrini, then we'd be starting at the end of the next report and working our way backwards. Well, amazingly, that's Mastrini's claim to fame with classical piano music, and pieces that are challenging enough for most of us to play forwards, he plays in reverse, and the result is a whole new musical world.
A classic, played backwards. For 3 years, pianist Maurizio Mastrini has performed well-known piano pieces back to front. Here it's a prelude by Johann Sebastian Bach. Mastrini says it's the great composer himself who gave him the idea.
2 years ago, Bach appeared to me in a dream. He told me, sit down at the piano, take the prelude in C major, and you'll find a piece hidden within it. I'll play it for you.
First, he plays it forwards. It took 2 weeks for Mastrini to perfectly master the piece in reverse.
Now I'll play it backwards.
One of Mastrini's favorite pieces is Ludwig van Beethoven's Bagatelle in A minor, Für Elisa. It's immediately recognizable, even when played in reverse.
These are completely new pieces, new melodies. The harmonies and compositional logic to which our ears are accustomed to are turned upside down. So something is created which has never been heard before.
Mastrini reads the notes from back to front. At a concert in a bar in Milan, Maurizio Mastrini also plays his own compositions. His encounter with Bach has also changed Mastrini's way of making his own music. He now writes it down from right to left.
It's fascinating, but at the start it was also very difficult. I played 15 hours a day and got stomach cramps, because reading and playing music backwards is like going down a highway, doing 140 kilometers per hour in reverse gear.
Today, Mastrini feels right at home in his topsy-turvy world. It's almost as if everyone else is doing things backwards.
Everything's changed. My life, my music. Here I'm going backwards for fun. But for me, it's serious business.
In the video for his latest CD, Il mio mondo al contrario, or My Opposite World, the whole city of London is going in reverse. Mastrini provides the musical accompaniment, Rimsky-Korsakov's Flight of the Bumblebee, played backwards, of course. And he's successful. People flock to see the backwards musician who performs in tails and bare feet.
Very original. You recognize Frauke from that famous motif. You even recognize it backwards.
Some of the pieces gain a new expressiveness, different sound combinations that I hadn't expected.
Maurizio Mastrini's Backwards repertoire comprises more than 30 classical and modern pieces. Currently, he's on tour in Italy.
And now we can hit the forward button again. And as we've already seen in the programme, good wine and good food have been taking on ever more importance here in Germany. Well, consequently, sales of cookbooks have been on a steady rise as people try to live by the old maxim, you are what you eat. And particularly hip right now all over Europe is the idea of sticking to seasonal and particularly regional produce. And a new cookbook by Munich-based chef Karl Ederer follows this trend. Heimat Food means literally homeland food, and Ederer shows us just how appetizing the traditional recipes can be.
Munich's famous food market. Karl Ederer is a regular shopper here, looking for fresh vegetables grown in the region. He checks to make sure the parsley root is locally grown. Autumn is harvest time, and Ederer likes to support organic food from Bavaria. He's a fan of local, sustainable agriculture. It's all part of the movement he's dubbed Heimat Food, traditional dishes with a special flair.
Heimat Food begins with typical local products. So that means typical German products and used in season. But it's not extremist or militant. My Heimat Food movement isn't about lecturing people. It's about advocacy and pleasure and enjoyment. Cooking with ingredients that are fresh and regional.
His restaurant in the center of Munich's historic district serves the chef's reinterpretations of traditional cuisine. His recipes are featured in a newly published cookbook as well. Ederer wants his food to be more than a simple reenactment of time-tested fare.
Heimat Food is a culinary style, so it also has to do with preparation and with techniques drawn from various international cuisines. So what we call German food is cooked with greater skill and given a more elegant presentation. But the flavors are still deeply reminiscent of the food we know from home.
The market for culinary books and magazines is booming, with sales increasing up to 40% over the past decade. Regional ingredients and traditional recipes adapted for the home kitchen are especially popular.
There's been a long phase of internationalization and globalization of cuisines. Our traditional mealtime rituals have fallen by the wayside, and takeout food has become the name of the game. In that context, the return to tradition and the local seems almost exotic. What was once ordinary and mundane now seems almost like a luxury.
Today, Ederer is cooking a Wells catfish using a recipe from his book. This type of catfish features frequently in Bavarian cuisine. His version has an unconventional taste, thanks in part to the parsley root, which adds a sweet note. The traditional way to serve this fish is whole and with salted potatoes. Instead, Ederer wraps the slices of catfish in potato strips that resemble spaghetti.
When I visited my mother, she'd cook classic dishes for me. It was great, but the richness always overwhelmed me so much that I would immediately head to the couch. Modern contemporary cuisine has an element of lightness, and it should also have a high nutritional value.
The fish is done after 3 or 4 minutes. People used to boil it to death in 30 minutes, but Karl Ederer's version is moist on the inside and crispy on the outside.
This is modern German cuisine.
Traditional cooking, but in a wholly unfamiliar guise.
And that's all for this edition of our Euromaxx highlights. But if you'd like to have another look at them, you can now reach them directly with the following link on our website. Just go to dw-world.de/English/Euromaxx-highlights. And with that, it's time for us to say goodbye. But in the meantime, until we meet again, take good care. And alles Gute aus Berlin. Tschüss, tschüss.